Hello learners, so I hope you have done your homework. I hope you have opened up at least 20 charts and drawn supports and resistances by yourself. In this video, we will solve many of the problems which you must have encountered while doing your homework. This video is all about polishing our skills of drawing supports and resistance. I have created a list of 9 points. These points will act as a guidance for us to draw supports and resistances. These points will polish your skills to draw these areas and identify these areas very easily. Let me show you the list now. I want you to note all these points in your notebook right now. Do not worry. You do not need to remember these points. You just need to look at these points whenever you draw supports and resistances. With time and with practice, you will tear this list apart and these points will be implanted in your heads. We just need practice and we just need discipline when you watch my videos. Now let us discuss each point one by one. The first point, do not draw too many lines on your charts. A very important point. Let us open the chart. Now we always want our charts to be very clean. You must be seeing all these charts being posted by experts or analysts. There are so many indicators, so many lines. A line here, let me change the color to blue because this is a weekly chart always. So you will be seeing a few charts with so many lines like this. All the areas are being identified no matter what their strength is. Here. So we do not want our charts to look dirty. We do not want weak areas on our charts. We just want to identify those areas which are quality areas. So what we will do is we will keep our charts simple. Let me delete all these lines. We can press Ctrl plus Z to undo. And here we go. The first point is done. Do not draw too many lines on charts. Instead, focus on lesser lines but quality lines. The second point. If it takes a lot of time to identify an area as a support or resistance, then that is a weak area. The more obvious the area, the stronger it is. So what it means to say is, when you look at an area, if the area requires a lot of zooming in, a lot of focus for you to identify it, then that area is a weak area. The more easier for you it is to identify an area, the stronger the area is. Always remember this point. For example, now I will show you one more area which is very hard to find right now, like this area. You can see now we are seeing a few reactions of price at this area. Let me draw a line using Alt H. Let me change the color to blue because it is a weekly chart. So there are few reactions, like here there is a reaction here. You can see this wick sticking out. Again there is a reaction here, but it is very tough to notice with an easy eye. So this area is not quite as strong as these areas, the areas which we have identified earlier. So what we will do is, we will not consider this area. We will just delete this area. So once again, the areas which are very easier to spot, which are very obvious, which are very clear, those areas are stronger, like these area which we have drawn. It was very easier for us to spot this area, right? So this is a strong area. Let's move to the next point. So the third point is, the highest and the lowest point is the most obvious area. Now whenever you look at a chart to draw supports and resistances, the first thing you need to do is make it comfortable. What I mean by comfortable is, the chart should not appear so small, nor should it appear too big. For example, I would not want my chart to appear like this, where there are so many big candles. I do not want to be it in so much zoomed in position that I would not be able to spot any areas, nor I would want my chart to look like this, nor I would want my chart to be so much zoomed out that the candles appear too small to analyze. Rather, I would want my chart in a comfortable position like this. This position is good. So this comfortable thing is subjective and it will come with practice automatically. You need not worry. Now I want you to identify the highest point in the chart. So the highest point is this. This is a good area of resistance. Now I want you to identify the lowest point of the chart. The lowest point is this. This is a good area of support. So these lines we have already drawn from our last lecture. The only point to note now is the highest point and the lowest point act as good resistance and support respectively. Let us look at the fourth point. See how many times the price rejected that area. The more the count, the stronger the area. What it means is the more the rejections of these areas, the stronger they are. Let us look at this area. How many rejections can you spot? Rejection number 1, rejection number 2, rejection number 3. So there are probably 3 rejections of this area. Let us look at this area. We can spot just 1 rejection. So what this point says is the more the rejections, the stronger the area. A pretty logical point. If the area is being rejected, if the area is being respected so many times, it means that area is strong. If the area is being respected lesser number of times, it means that area is comparatively weak. That's it. Let's look at the fifth point. Pay attention to the magnitude of rejection when the price reached that area. The stronger the rejection, the better it is. In this point, we are looking at the power of rejection, the magnitude of rejection when the price hit those area. In the previous point, we looked at the count of rejections, how many times the area was respected. In this point, we are looking at the magnitude of rejection. Let us look at the chart to understand further. Let us see what a good magnitude of rejection is. Look at this rejection. When the price appeared at this resistance, the magnitude of rejection was very big. The price hit down with huge force. So this is a strong rejection. The magnitude is big. Now if you look at this rejection, this is a weak rejection because the magnitude of fall when the price hit this resistance was small. The fall was feeble. The fall was not as strong as the fall which we saw earlier. So when we compare these two rejections, we can say that the magnitude of rejection of this point of time was a stronger rejection and this was a weaker rejection. Now for the sake of example, assume that this rejection had not taken place. Let us assume that this rejection had not taken place in this chart. If we would have seen only this rejection, then we would conclude that this area of resistance is not quite strong because the rejections are not as strong as they should be. Again, here we see the rejection is not as strong. However, the current price is here. We need to see where the market goes, but as of now, we can say that the rejection is feeble. So in this point, we need to compare the areas in terms of the magnitude of rejection they provide. Let us see this rejection. The magnitude is enormous. When the price hit this area, and look at the fall right down here. So this area is pretty strong area, the highest point. In this way you analyze the strength of supports and resistances by looking at the magnitude of rejection they provide. Let us come to the sixth point now. If the area has acted as both support and resistance, it is a strong area. This area which has acted as resistance here, if I zoom out the chart and I find that this area had acted as a support right here, it again acted as a support right here, and it also acted as some kind of support here. And now I see that this area has acted as resistance. So this area is a strong area. In a chart, if you find such areas which are acted as both support and resistance, then those areas are very important areas. Come to the seventh point. The newer the rejection, the stronger that area is. Pretty simple point. What it means to say is, the latest the rejection happens, the more important that area. The older the reaction, the lesser important the area. Now if I see backdated charts and if I identify certain resistances like this, that is a support here. So these are older areas which are not quite relevant now. It doesn't mean that price will not behave when it comes to those areas. It just means that these areas are not as strong as the areas which we have identified right now. Last 2 points are the most important points. These points you will not find probably in any books or YouTube or anywhere. These points are solely based on my experience, and I have experienced these issues, so I have mentioned these points. Let us come to the 8th point now. Supports and resistances of higher time frames are always stronger than those of the lower time frames. First, let us understand what a higher time frame is. Now, if you are looking at a 15 minutes chart, then the higher time frames are 75 minutes, daily, weekly, or the monthly. If you are looking at a 75-minute chart or a 60-minute chart, then the higher time frames are, say, daily, weekly, and monthly. If you are looking at a daily chart, then the higher time frames are weekly and monthly. And if you are looking at the weekly chart, then the higher time frame is the monthly chart. Now let us come to the daily chart. We press comma and press D and hit enter. So this is the daily chart. On the top left side you can see the D, which means the daily chart. Let me zoom out to make a comfortable view. Now this view seems comfortable to me, so I'll stick to this. Now on this daily chart, can you clearly spot a resistance? Yes, we can clearly spot a resistance. It is right here. Let me draw a rectangle. Yes. So this area is a nice resistance. Now since this is a daily chart, we will change the color to orange. For the weekly chart we use blue, for the daily chart we use orange. Can you spot a support? Yes, we can also spot a good support. Let me draw a line here. Now this area is not getting covered, so it would be better if we draw a rectangle again. Let me delete this and draw a rectangle. So we could spot a good area of support and a good area of resistance. We are saying that as far as the resistance is concerned, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rejections. As far as the support is concerned, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 rejections. So both are strong areas. Now coming back at the point which we were discussing, the 8th point, the areas of higher time frames are stronger than those of the lower time frames. Now what it means to say is, the probability that the price will reject this area, the blue area, is higher than the probability that the price will reject this orange area. Once again, the probability that the price will reject this area, the higher time frame, the weekly area of resistance, the probability of rejection is higher in this area as compared to this area, which we have identified using the daily chart. Once again, the probability of price rejecting this area of support is higher than the probability that the price will reject this area of support. All in all, the higher time frames is stronger than the lower time frames. The areas identified in the higher time frames are stronger than the areas identified in the lower time frames. Now we are on the daily chart. Let us go one step deeper. Let us go to the 75 minutes chart. Please note that in your TradingView platform, you may not get the option to go to the 75 minutes chart because you might be using the free version. I am using the Pro Plus version as of now, so I have the facility to go to the 75 minutes time frame. If you are using the free version, you can go to the 60 minutes time frame. That is also okay, but I have this access, so I will use the 75 minutes time frame, which is my favorite time frame. I will press 75 and hit enter. So this is the 75 minutes time frame. As you can see, this blue area, it is the weekly time frame. It is the weekly resistance. This orange area, it is the daily resistance. This orange area, it is the daily support. On the 75 minutes too, can you see a good resistance? Yes, we can see right here. This resistance will be covered using a line. We can use the horizontal line, Alt plus H. Now, since this is a 75 minutes chart, we will not use the blue color. Blue color is for the weekly chart. For the 75 minutes, we will use dark green. We click OK. Now once again, coming back to the point, as far as the 75 minutes time frame is concerned, its higher time frame is the daily time frame. So what I mean to say is, the possibility that the price will reject this area, this green area, is lesser than the possibility that the price will reject this orange area. So this orange area will be stronger than this green area. So always remember this, the higher time frames, the areas identified from the higher time frames are always stronger than the areas identified from the lower time frames. Let us come to the ninth point. Polishing these areas using the lower time frames is my key. Now this is a kind of a secret. This point you will not find anywhere. This is my personal tool which I use. Let us jump to the charts to understand this. This is the 75 minutes. We'll first come to the weekly chart. So this is the weekly chart. Let me adjust a little bit. Yes, this is comfortable. Now the issue which you are facing right now is you are also seeing these green line and this orange line along with these weekly areas which we have identified earlier. This orange line came from the daily time frame. Now since this is from the lower time frame, these lines are not important when we are looking at the higher time frames. So to make our charts clear, we will double click on this, click on visibility. Now we will untick the weekly, the monthly, and we will click OK. So as you can see that the daily area vanished. Once again we will repeat. We will do this for the resistance now. Double click, go to the visibility, and you have to untick weekly and monthly. So this area will now appear only on the daily chart, on the hourly chart, that is 60 minutes and plus, on the minutes chart and the seconds chart, and this area will not appear on the weekly and the monthly. Now we will click OK and the area is gone. The same thing we can do for this green line with double click. Now we do not want this line to appear on even the daily chart because this line came from the 75 minutes time frame. So we will untick the daily and the weekly, hit OK, and the line is gone. Now coming back to the point, how do we polish these areas using the lower time frames? For that we must first move to the lower time frame. Currently we are on the weekly chart. These areas we have drawn on the weekly charts. So what I want to do is press comma, press D to go to the daily chart. Now I want to make my charts more clean. I do not want to see broad areas, rather I would love to see thinner areas. I would love to see just the lines so that my charts are very beautiful. First let us come to this support. What I will do now is I'll click on this rectangle and hit delete. I would love to draw this area in such a way, I would love to draw a line in such a way that the wicks of this candle should stick out of the line. Now this lines up perfectly if I place a horizontal line here. I keep my cursor over here and then hit Alt plus H. Now since the area was identified, the area was originally identified from the weekly time frame. Since the area was originally identified from the weekly time frame, we will change the color to blue. We just used the daily time frame, that is the lower time frame, to polish that area. I repeat, we have just used the daily time frame to polish that area. Originally, that area was identified from the weekly time frame. So this is a weekly area. Now let us come to this resistance. Now there are no other rejections visible except this one. So polishing this area is not quite possible. However, we can lower this area a little bit so that the wicks stick out of the area. We can also make this a little thinner if we want, but it is not quite compulsory because there are no other rejections of this area visible in this lower time frame, that is the daily chart. Now these two areas we have identified from the daily chart. Now to polish these areas we need to go to a time frame which is lower than the daily time frame. So we will go to the 75 minutes time frame to polish these daily areas. Now is there any scope to polish this resistance? Let us see. Yes, we can lower this area a little bit so that these wicks stick out like this. We can also make this a little thinner, not an issue, like this. So we made this chart a little clean. As far as the support is concerned, is there any scope? No, I do not see any scope because there are not much rejections visible from this 75 minutes time frame. However, do you see any support from the 75 minutes time frame? Yes, I see a good support here. Let me draw a line. Let me change the color to green because it is the 75 minutes time frame, the dark green color. Now we have drawn the supports and resistances even for the 75 minutes chart. Now if we want to polish these areas even further, let us now dig deep. Let us move to the 15 minutes time frame. In the 15 minutes, do you see any need to polish? Let us look at support first. No. Lines up perfectly. Rejection number 1, rejection number 2, the wicks sticking out. No wicks here. So pretty good area identified from the 75 minutes time frame. There is no need for further polishing. Let us look at resistance. Nothing much. Already a good area. We can delete these line and you can replace with a rectangle when we are analyzing using the 15 minutes so that both the areas get covered. Now this area was identified from the 75 minutes time frame, so we'll change the color to dark green. So we are done polishing. right from the weekly to the daily, then 75 minutes and 15 minutes. Now let us jump back to the weekly time frame, comma W, enter. The chart looks cleaner, right? Now let us jump to the daily to see how it looks. Yes, the chart looks cleaner, the lines are thinner. Let us jump to the 75 minutes. Pretty good. In the daily chart, I noticed a thing which you should have noticed too, that we see this green line. Now this line is coming from the 75 minutes, not quite useful for the daily chart. Double click, go to visibility and hide daily. Hit enter. The line vanishes. Friends, this is how we polish the areas. This is how I do, and this has given me great results. I hope you practice these things too. You need to make efforts. Without practice, you will not be able to trade consistently. The only key to succeed is practice. So when I give homework, when I ask you to practice, please do practice and only then proceed to watch my next videos. Also, you must now be realizing why I have been consistently saying to use different colors for the different time frames. It is for this very reason that when you're looking at this daily chart, for example, you can clearly spot that these blue areas are coming from the weekly time frames. These orange areas are coming from the daily time frames. So you can judge the strength of these areas, because the higher time frames give more strength and the lower time frames give lesser strength. So this is the reason why we used different colors for different time frames. Once again, I'm repeating that if you are not getting these concepts very clearly, do not worry at all, because we are going to discuss plenty of charts. When you watch all my videos, I am pretty sure that you will be more confident, and when you practice, you will be a master of supports and resistances. Now you can write all these points down. As I told you, you do not need to remember these points. With practice, it will automatically be implanted in your brains. In the next video, we will discuss a few more examples where we will draw these areas, keeping these points in our minds. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.